Hi everyone, my name is Ruban Kanapathippillai. I'm part of SenzMate team. This is, we have been having this, how AI is impacting various market segment over, last 2 years. And in this new series, this is both event about the connected devices. Because one of the area of interest to us is AIoT, AI and IoT at the edge, how devices speaks to people, how devices help life and improve the performance or productivity. But with that, our focus, even though our technology company as well as worldwide, now AI is becoming so important and hot topic. We, as a team we have brought in here, we want to talk about the use cases, how it impacts the real world. Before I get into more detail of what we have done, a couple of housekeeping. This video here is recorded, so we will be sharing with all the attendees after the meeting. And other one is we will have time for Q&A at the end. So please, have your questions. And during our event, you can go into the chat and put your question out here. So while one speaker is speaking, others can review, respond in live time, live in the camera, or they can write notes about it. And so overall, thank you for everybody, and thank you for panelists to join us today. So prior to we start into the conversation, our team has created a few minutes video about what is meant by the connected devices. So we will play that video now.
In today's world, artificial intelligence is no longer a luxury. It's a bridge connecting people, places, and possibilities across every corner of the globe. From smart cities in the West to smallholder farms in the global South, technology is transforming lives, one connected device at a time. Imagine a farmer sending a simple voice note on WhatsApp and instantly activating an irrigation system powered by AI. No complex apps, no barriers, just intelligence, made simple. Every sensor, every device, every byte of data, working together to build a smarter, more sustainable planet. This isn't the future, it's happening now. As networks expand, devices connect, and knowledge flows freely. Because when intelligence is shared, everyone grows. This is the power of connection. This is the power of AI for everyone.
Thank you very much. There was a brief introduction, but you could see how connected device in multiple market, multiple verticals, it can, help improve the livelihood as well as AI. So today we have three esteemed panelists with us here. So we will go by one by one and ask them to introduce and give you some feedback on it and the experience of how they are seeing this market evolving. And the important part of it is we try to get a worldwide perspective. I am from US, and Scott, Bhupinder from all over the globe side of it, and Miller from the Asia side of it. So we would provide the feedback to what we are seeing, and we always love to hear your feedback. As I mentioned, you can write up in the text, as well as towards the end of the call, we open up the lines for participant to come on, spotlight them, and they can ask the question to the panelist or add their opinion to it. And so, hi Scott. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to SenzMate's Connected Device webinar.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. I can hear you. Thank you. And so, can you give a quick background on yourself, and how long you've been working on, and what other things you've been doing, and then we
Sure.
can follow up. Yeah.
So my career has been spent in senior living, healthcare, post-acute, long-term care in the U.S., and most of my work has been on what I would call industry and business advisory. So even though a long time ago I started my career on the tech side, I really have spent most of my career working with organizations on strategy, business advisory, business planning, those types of things. And I became particularly interested over the years in affordable housing plus services, which here in the United States is a significant challenge. And more so than affordable, it's what we call the moderate income segment, where it's gotten a lot of attention and been a real challenge here in the U.S. Not that we lack for need of affordable housing, we certainly do, but there are at least some programs in place designed to help address that challenge. You have another segment that has wealth and income above the thresholds to qualify for assistance, but yet they're going to face real challenges aging in place in the community or staying out of congregate settings in the future. And so I approached a longtime colleague of mine, who's now my business partner, Dr. Michael Tremblay, who had just finished up some work working with some pharmaceutical companies on a project in Europe. Mike has a long history of using technology for prediction. And I approached him with, how could we use predictive technology to better understand the needs of seniors as they age in place? With the idea being that if we could be predictive, we might be able to provide some cost savings to that moderate income plus services model. Well, that was about 5 years ago, and 102 pivots later, as anyone who's been an entrepreneur in this space understands, where we have landed is we have a solution called Alarin Health. And what Alarin is a falls prediction and prevention solution. We use real-time monitoring with a device that's provided by MediBiosense, a company in England, and it provides real-time vital signs. We combine that and integrate it with environmental data, things like air pressure, humidity, wind, etc. And although the device, the IoT part, and I understand this is what we're here to talk about, that's critically important. What we try to be cognizant of in sharing our value proposition is it's not about the device technology. It's really about the backside, the predictive capabilities. What does that data and information allow you to do? So what the algorithms and the predictive technology that Mike has produced allows us to predict 24 to 48 hours in advance whether someone has a higher risk of a fall based on what's happening to them physiologically and how does that interplay with their environment. And I think that's one of the fascinating opportunities when we think about IoT and healthcare, is combining not just what's happening with the individual and not looking at aggregate health data, but tracking that individual in real time over time and how do they interact with their environment. And that's what our solution does, is it gives clinicians the ability to intervene prior to a fall happening. So we are not a detection solution, we are a prediction and prevention solution.
Yeah, so actually that is very interesting what you are talking about, because one of the areas in this, any one of these field, from medtech to industrial or everything, what you meant by predictive, which means is eliminating the downtime. Because, for example, for the industries, when you have connected devices which can predictively do things, that removes the the downtime. Same thing for the patients or the doctors. If you can prevent, I mean, if another way of looking at it, healthcare wise, the going to emergency room versus working out on the other aspect, earlier part where you can prevent that or predict that and give them guidance to the caregivers, the doctors, even the patients would be a great part of it. No, I think I see that as a great value. So from a business point of view, when you went and approached this one, who would you go and work with to two part? One of them is to adoption. Other one is who will pay for these kind of thing. How do you guys look at the business model around that? Because that is interesting.
Well, it's very, yes, it is. And I think in some respects, we have been skating to where the puck is heading. If you're familiar with the Wayne Gretzky analogy, that's probably overused by now, but we are very focused on value-based care and value-based payment models. There are a lot of solutions that specifically look at how can we get coded, how can we get reimbursed using this solution, or how can we help clinicians, physicians get reimbursed? That is not our play. Our play is specifically around cost savings. How can we lower the costs associated with falls, both from a patient perspective, from a clinical perspective, from a legal perspective, and in lowering the challenges, then how do you recapture that cost into value? And so what we're looking at are the payment models that provide economic benefit from cost savings. For example, the PACE program for all-inclusive care for the elderly here in the United States, which is a Medicare, Medicaid nursing home diversion program that has enjoyed a great deal of success. That is a fully capitated payment program where the PACE organization has 100% responsibility for the participant of the program. So they have an incentive to maintain quality of care, great outcomes, but at the same time, lowering costs, i.e. trying to keep people out of the emergency room, out of the hospital. So that's our initial target, is those types of programs and congregate settings where we can help them reduce costs, and then those costs translate to direct dollars to the bottom line.
No, I think that, thank you, because you are absolutely right. I mean, emergency room cost can be 10x or 100x. And then the other side, I have seen working in Silicon Valley, there is a pot of money available for prevention, which reduces the insurance company to, pay a higher amount later part of it. And I know you guys work a lot on the monitoring side of it. If you can go a little bit deep into, in the sense that's our event, our today's topic is about connected devices, and how would you go about collaborating and connecting these devices, and from a technology angle. Now from a business angle, thank you for clarifying, but from a technology angle point of view, how difficult or how easy to go and implement your technology into the connected devices? Because easier to do a software program, but when you do connected devices, you need more device side of it also.
Right. So as I mentioned before, the remote monitoring technology is a wrist-worn monitor that is called Infinity Watch, a plug for our development partner, MediBioSense. Again, I ought to get some kudos for that.
No, please, because I think this is important for people to know the names. They can search it out.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And what we really appreciated about Infinity Watch is that it'll work anywhere. It does not require being connected to a local area network or Wi-Fi. So as I mentioned before, the PACE is an initial attraction for us because we think it's a very good fit from an economic perspective. But PACE participants, because they are typically of low income and moderate means, they're often in living situations where they don't have Wi-Fi. So being able to have that cellular connectivity and where it'll work anywhere, whether you're inside, outside, was very important to us. Also, the reliability, the connectivity, the real-time monitoring of vital signs, and the ability to bring that into or connect with other data streams was very important to us.
Yeah, thank you. Because see, the reason I was trying to poke down there is the providers like you guys, SenzMate, Bhupinder, and all of you will continue to talk about it. you hide the technology for these patients and elders and different people, but it has a lot of investment, a lot of R&D, a lot of development associated with that. But on the other hand, what you provide is fall detection or elder care or some of these part of it, which is so you are solving a big problem using the IoT or edge and with the AI behind it to do the prediction and prevention part of it. So stay there, Scott. I think at the end we can question Q&A part of it. We'll come back to you. I appreciate your feedback on this. And so now I'm going to jump to Bhupinder. He's a veteran of this webinar, as well as he has been in this industry for long enough. But Bhupinder, why don't you give a quick intro of yourself and what kind of areas you had work on it, what you are working on? Then we'll jump into the topic side of it.
Yes, thank you, Ruben. And so I've actually been in the industry for longer than I can remember. I grew up as a Visual Basic programmer, and I was coding retail systems. So this is point of sale systems. So I started off as that, and then I kind of gradually moved into when I say proper IT. I mean, I don't know if there's such a term as proper IT, but it was into solution architecture. And then into FinOps and just kind of enterprise architecture. And one of the things that I found was that people were always saying, do something. And I always say, well, why do we need to do something? So it's always the why? And then finally, it was one of those things where in terms of, someone said to me, I think that we should all be assets. Everything is an asset and it needs to have its own kind of a system around it. And that to me was one of the kind of the most kind of eye-opening statements, because we tend to think of IT asset management or just IT having these different components which are all related to technical platforms and technical infrastructure. But then you start looking at all the ecosystems around that. So to me, a document is an IT asset, a person is actually an IT asset, a building is an IT asset, and that's what kind of got me started in terms of connected. How are we connected? So it wasn't really connected devices. It was kind of, what is this cycle? What is this circle which really kind of we're in? And it's one of those incestuous things where you kind of talk to we're talking to different types of IT components, and then gradually the conversation started to AI and IoT and connected devices. And I got interested. I was working at BMC, and I was talking to one of the VPs, and he was saying, I have an idea of bringing value to a business by making a smart office building. And then, well, what are you thinking about? He said, well, and this is kind of alluding to Scott's phrase in terms of patients and patient care, because you do have sick buildings. I mean, you must have all heard about the sick building syndrome. You have healthy buildings, you have sick buildings, and you have kind of in between as well. And those sick buildings pass on that sickness to people as well. So this is where this kind of interest in the smart buildings and smart office building and connected devices and how they all kind of connect together. So that was how it all started, Joe Ruben. And so going on to in my introductory video, I think I was talking about how you enter a building and it knows who you are and the temperature is perfect. To me, I think of a smart office building like having its own nervous system. It really is a living entity. It's a living, breathing component of our lives. And we interact, we work in these offices. We spend 8 hours a day, if not more, in these buildings. So we have to make sure that they are giving back to us and we're actually interacting with them as well. So to me, a smart office building is really something which has its own kind of nervous system. So it's got all these synapses and we're all talking to each other. And in some of the things like the heating, ventilation, and the air conditioning systems. I mean, these aren't the kind of thermostats that you see in old houses. I mean, your grandparents' houses next to these big radiators. And these are very, very sophisticated sensors. You have thermal sensors, you have carbon dioxide sensors, you have even occupancy sensors. And what they're doing is they're learning about the people who are in those buildings. when are they arriving? What time do they open the door in the morning? How many are there in each each room? And what temperature does everyone actually prefer? So this is one of those kind of predictive things. So just going back to what Scott was saying, it's predicting how a building should behave when a particular person comes inside. You've got IoT lighting, you've got smart lighting systems. They're tracking natural daylight, they're opening the blinds, and they're cutting the energy use. And this is, again, one of those things where, we're talking about climate change. And buildings use up, and I'm not even going to touch the subject of data centers, but, just office buildings have got such a big energy footprint. And so whatever we can do to alleviate that, to reduce that, that is so much better. And then in the offices themselves, we have the things like we have the smart printers, they're ordering their own ink. It's not, we're just in time. We have security and access systems, so you know that the right people are going to be coming in. We have smart locks, and all of these devices are gathering millions of data points. And in terms of a patient, so just think about a building as a patient, and everything that we need to know about a building. These sensors are collecting it, and this is where, again, the interconnection with AI and AIoT, Ruben, comes in, because this is where, if you think about AI as the brain of the building, so this is now the data analytics and the pattern recognition pieces. There's so much data, massive amounts of data, temperature readings every minute, counting all these bits and pieces. And if you think about, when I used to go into this is a couple of years ago, I used to go into a building and I'd be presented with the facilities manager sitting at the front desk, and I'd say, it's really hot in there, Jim. He'd say, oh yeah, the temperatures, I just got to turn the thermostat up. But that's not what it's all about now. It's learning these patterns. I think able to identify the patterns and the consumption of certain components during the day. So what exactly? What is AI? How does AI fit into this? So this is the learning. They know. So AI learns at the conference room B. And I was going to say, this is Cobra. In England, we have the government has this conference room called conference room. This is when there's an emergency. So conference room, Cobra room is always freezing in the morning because there's no sun exposure. Or at the East Wing in the White House, and it's empty at 3:00 on Friday. But machine learning models will create patterns of normal behavior for these systems. And then we'll have real-time optimization. So based on these patterns, what we're looking at is it's making thousands of micro decisions every single day. When it detects that a floor is empty, why should we keep the heating and the air conditioning on? Why should we keep the lights on? Why should we do all those things? So it's coordinating with these system components, and it's saying, I need to reduce the heating, I need to reduce the cooling, I need to make sure that in terms of ventilation, that is totally shut down. And just an interesting fact as well. So when we're talking about prioritizing having healthy buildings, Gartner did a report, and 68.6% of the people who were asked the questions, they said, we will choose employers who are actually prioritizing environmental policies. Which means that in terms of those employers, they need to now start thinking about how do they keep these people healthy, and how they keep them in terms of productivity. There is a level at which a person just shuts down, or they're really, really productive. So this is about kind of predictive maintenance. So going to predictive maintenance. So we're predicting what is going to happen. So just like Scott was saying, we're not just detecting. We're predicting, or AI is detecting what is happening within a building, and it's getting really, really clever. So it's thinking about, in terms of all the telemetry for all of those devices, and it's saying there is a possible failure. And I was working with a company where they saved nearly 25% in terms of maintenance costs, because the AI was able to predict that there was going to be a failure, and they fixed it early. So avoiding a catastrophic failure during the peak summer, and also saving thousands in terms of emergency repairs, but also keeping the business going as well. And so what am I building up to? So this is really about health and safety. And again, this is about making sure that in terms of people, and I want to kind of, this is people focused. So what is the value of having these healthy buildings, these smart buildings? It's making sure that air quality is good. And we've been hearing about the air quality in Delhi as an example, New Delhi as an example. And we're talking about emergency prevention. So in terms of the equipment failures, they're not going to happen. We know that they're going to. We know before they happen that they're going to happen, and we're eliminating those emergency situations. And it's proactive safety as well. Water leak sensors, fire safety systems, elevator monitoring, and it kind of builds up towards this great green agenda. And I know, again, I was going to touch upon the data centers. I know that they are becoming greener, but smart buildings are growing at an exponential rate. And by next year, there's predicted to be 115 million smart buildings. And it sounds like a big number, but it's not really a big number given the number of the buildings and cities that there are around the world. But they are projected to reduce energy consumption by 20 to 30% by using AI, by using the data that is being collected by all of these devices. And it's also enabling, governments have made a very, very ambitious targets. They're saying net zero targets, what was it, 2050, 2030, somewhere. They're going to start doing all those bits and pieces. But 91% of companies who were surveyed say that they pay a premium for tech-enabled, sustainable offices, and offices which are giving people the environment that they need. So this is what I was going to say. So next time you walk into a building and lights seem to know that you're there and the temperature feels perfect, behind the scenes, there's a lot of data being collected, and there's a lot of information trending and happening. And it's about helping us to build a more sustainable future and keep people, I won't say productive, because that's just kind of a byproduct, but keeping people safe and making sure that they're healthy. They're not going to walk into a building and they're going and a sick building is going to make them sick. It's keeping our ecosystems. It's making sure that we as productive people and just as human beings are going to be the best at what we need to do in these smart buildings.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bhupinder, I think you covered very good area where the building and the health and the nervous system. I really like that that part of it, because it learns from your behavior. It learns from many buildings and many people, and then start proactively controlling or looking at it. I think you had similar example at the smart city level also, because if you look at the traffic lights and various aspects of it, you want to discuss something on that smart city side? I mean, if you go back to the next level from the building to
yes,
yeah.
No, absolutely no, because smart buildings are really, they're not isolated. They can't be isolated, because the whole word smart means, and connected means that they are part of an ecosystem. And this is one of the things which I'm really kind of focused on, and I think a lot of people now are saying, let's not take things one at a time and in isolation. They talk about silos, and sometimes it's the fault of the people who actually in positions of power. They maintain those silos, and what is happening is smart buildings and the use and the connected devices, because those connected devices they don't just remain within the building, the boundaries of the building. They're actually talking to other things outside of the building as well. And that's where the smart city comes in, because if you can extrapolate a smart building into a city, we're now reaching a level of sophistication, and also in terms of the climate change and all the associated pieces, this green agenda that we all want to achieve. It becomes sustainable. It becomes achievable. And I'm working with a company in the US, actually. It's called AMSYS, and they are into smart buildings. And now I think with the advent of the right GPUs and the computing power and all the technology that we need to actually kind of connect all these things and kind of do the analytics, we are at a tipping point. I think we're at that age where we can now start saying we are now going to start not managing, but controlling the way that we impact the environment and the way that we want our our citizens to actually live within these smart cities. So are your wearables, Scott, why can't it be connected directly into, all the other bits and pieces as well? So, we as human beings are part of this ecosystem as well. And that I think, Ruben, is where we're heading. With all those wearables, with all those, and with those wearables becoming cheaper and smaller, we are, the world is not, the actual world is a connected ecosystem.
Yeah, I know. I think you can, because as it starts with people, what Scott started, it starts with the home and the office, and it starts with the city, it starts with the, states and provinces and the country, and it continues to evolve. I mean, some of the project we have been working on from SenzMate point of view, one side, people, the climate technology and that part of it, but the other side is making people's life better. You summarized it well. So to bring in Miller as, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So Miller, I think you have been around the world, around, many of these conferences, one side to talk about the importance of connected devices from agriculture to industrial to different area. Why don't you give a quick background on you, and then jump into articulating some of the value or the challenges people have faced, and how SenzMate as well as the AIoT industry has been able to address on both. I think Scott and Bhupinder's case are part of your portfolio, but there are many more. So why don't you just run into some of them?
Definitely, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today, and a great pleasure to meet you all. I'm maybe a familiar face on this webinar multiple times. So, Miller Rajendran, Chief Operating Officer of SenzMate. So my major role is to bring technology for the non-connected world. To give a small brief on SenzMate, we started as a IoT company, especially in the agriculture ecosystem. Then we pivoted, expand, and now we are a global company focusing on IoT and AI as a combination. We are into artificial intelligence of things. One of the early movers into the generative AI technology as well. So in this, we have like 10 years of experience working on IoT and AI, building our own hardware. But our specialty, I would say, having a perspective from a South Asian context and building an exposed technology which is in a global context allow us to think global and build something for the Fortune 500 companies, telecommunication companies of this world and medical ecosystem, but come up with more alternative, affordable way where a layman can access technology. So it's one of our main strengths, and we embracing that. That's allow us to work with over 30,000 smallholder farmers, rural farmers, using IoT and AI on the ground, climate technologies enabled in the global south, medical technology enabled in the global south. So that's our strength, and we enhancing that. So that's a small brief about our strength and where we come up from, and the building solutions from a global context. To my expertise and my favorite area and domain to work out, Ruben, is all about bringing the cutting edge technologies and AI and IoT environment. We talk about smart cities, connected building, and more city-oriented environment. As you said, cities and it's extending towards the rural, and the globe will be completely connected. And that's where the world is moving towards. And we are one of the edge on and that environment right now. So we building something from ground up, where we connecting non-connected individuals around the world, smallholder farmers, rural farming ecosystem, medical environment which is never connected to internet or digitalization in the past, industries and SMEs, small enterprises which is coming from the global south, now creating a connected ecosystem. Smart city, it's a two different terminologies in the Western world and the global south. So our strength, it's enhancing from the bottom up. So we are embracing that technology. Love to talk more on these lines.
Yeah, I think, when we look at our journey at SenzMate AIoT, over time, how we have always looked for real problem, come up with technology to solve that. If you were to focus on some of those area, if we can take a look at it, just go through, one or two example of specific use cases and how we platformize this end to end, because people see, if you look at the AI, a lot of people understand the data or the information is the key, or it's the oil. I mean, you had to have that information to be able to train on them and then do predictive analysis and all those kind of things. But you guys have done, that's why I'm very proud to be part of it, is how that is. So if you can just elaborate a little bit more into that, that'll be good.
Definitely. So actually, this is the best time to be living in the tech ecosystem. So the time which is after the .com crash, where this is another new wave coming in, everyone tried to jump in. But for the first time, this is very interesting. Internet was there and people try to work on it. And we can say like it extend to a huge number of population, but not as the AI wave captured that rapidly.
So you are making me and Bhupinder's life like we wasted our time. That's no, but what you're saying is absolutely true. So I will also support after. Go ahead and yes.
Exactly, Ruben. So because let's say the .com crash around 2000 and maybe another 10 years back, it was started to saturate in the developed nation. After 2000, it's been 25 years. It's felt so old, but it's been 25 years to reach a certain numbers. Maybe let's say half of the world was connected to internet. People know how to search in Google in 2025. But imagine the way which happens in the past 3 years after generative AI. For the first time, a layman in India, like a rural person, like India talking about 50 to 60 million, 500 to 600 million people connected to internet through free internet access, and now Perplexity connected with Airtel to provide 600 million people free pro version of Perplex. So people talking in that scale right now. Billions of people getting into internet to AI in this 3 years period, which took 30 plus years for internet. AI captured that market within 3 years. So that's the transition we are talking about. For the first time ever, a layman have a simple interface to communicate high performance computers and supercomputers and quantum computers. So we are talking about simple chat interface. We don't need to know. That's the important part. When we talk about AI and high technology, and it's become more of a class-oriented system. It's only available for well-matured and developed nations with tech-savvy individuals. But it's now available for a rural farmer. So we can't alienate AI or IoT going forward. So this is something, it's part of your life. It's just bringing you efficiency. Just like you're putting a switch 150 years back, that also a huge technology. You put a switch, its light is blinking, that's all. So now it's AI, something like that. So now you have to be on the realm. And you have the opportunity to, even for free, you have access for information which is available in the globe. But there is a huge gap still. As you rightly said, the oil is the information. So far, the digital data is available from the developed nations and the cities and corporate world and so on. So there's a huge area which is not yet tapped in terms of accessing digital data. So whatever the global south, or maybe from Sri Lanka or rural part of Africa or in India, wherever they use technology and the behaviors and the intelligence which is generated and designed and developed and cater from a developed nation. So generating data from this part of the world, bring this balance, and which create a democracy in the data or in digitalization ecosystem. So that's where the world is supposed to be moving, and it's moving really fast in a lightning speed. So connected environment, which gives that information, because feeding data is the biggest problem with hundreds of language and hundreds of different behavior. Compared to the Western world, very few cultural differences. And in this part of the world, we have more cultural differences, input data, input behaviors, and understanding that, customizing that knowledge is very, very hard. So that's where connected technology like IoT and sensing and digital data inputs play a major role in terms of creating this behavior, creating digital data. So I'll give you one example where SenzAgro, which is we're working on. So which is the best use case you can get it, because it's for the rural farmer. They don't have digital literacy at all. But COVID made this transition. Pandemic situation where kids started schooling on smartphones, right, with Zoom calls or Teams and so on. Parents were forced to purchase a smartphone. So that allows a huge transition in the rural communities where at least each family, one mobile phone, which is internet connected smartphone, is available. That doesn't mean a smart farmer know how to use it. A 12-year-old kid in the family know how to use it. So that's the opportunity right now. Every family is connected. In Sri Lankan context, the smartphone penetration is over 120%. More than the population, we have more smartphones and SIMs, mobile SIMs in the country. So every single household is connected. So now initially we provide under SenzAgro, where we have farms which is connected to internet, where you put sensors and automation, where you can send a message, you send a switch on button to your mobile, remotely access, schedule it, and the irrigation works on, fertigation works on. There is a completely no-touch automation for the farms. We had some number of farms in the past. But moving forward, we have a different maturity. So the instruction initially given by people, so that's the beauty of Gen AI. Gen AI understand in a human perspective. So now you don't want to know the tech part to be a smart farmer or digital farmer. You give a simple WhatsApp message, switch on plot A, give me irrigation for plot B. That's all you have to say in voice note over WhatsApp. So Gen AI translate that human language into AI language to machine language, where that can be automated process. So now you don't need to know how to use a smartphone, open up that, click that button, now schedule the time and switch it on. Just like you say, telling to your kid or the worker on the farm, 9 a.m. you have to put irrigation to the farm A. That's it. Now it has an interface to communicate with machine through a simple human interface. So that's happening right now. So Iron Man and Jarvis is no more something like a mythical or sci-fi movie. It's happening right now. With voice note, my farmer communicating with his farm, and farm is getting irrigation. So that's the beauty of AI and IoT combined. The connected devices can play a major role. And it's coming from global south, bottom up. I'm not talking about US, Netherlands or Israel. That's the beauty.
That is where the interesting thing for me, because I started 25 years ago, my first company, as well as before starting my company, the product I worked on was the 1G network or GSM network on the cell phone. Now we had 5G going to 6G network. But as you mentioned rightfully, the global south, developing nations, all of these people, because if you had to build the infrastructure to, wired connections and all that, it takes a lot of money, a lot of investment. So they have gone with, mobile or cell phone towers. That translated, as you mentioned, connected people closely, and then they are able to, all these apps running on the edge, connected devices, able to take information and summarize. And, like we had worked on some of the LLM or the large language model, which can work on the edge device itself. So by doing that, you don't have to send millions of packages to a data center and waste energy, waste bandwidth, waste money on those part of it. So by doing all of these, we were able to do that.
No, definitely, because the mobile going to play a major role when it comes to the global south. If you take Indonesia, the number of people involved in Grab, that's huge. In India, after Jio, the amount of people getting access for internet. So I recently listened to a Perplexity CEO, a young entrepreneur, Arvind Srinivasan. So he's talking about capturing the become a monopoly on this market because he's number 3 right now. OpenAI, like ChatGPT, then Gemini, then Perplexity. So they have very small margin in terms of market penetration. But his strategy to create the quantity to giving free of charge Perplexity Pro for all the Airtel users in India and capturing 500 million people at one shot. So 500 million users and 90% Indian users are mobile users. And let's say they're using like 300 million, completely half of it, use Perplexity and they are number 1 from day 2. So in terms of access for generative AI. So this is one of the huge opportunity. Building AI connected devices, simplify that in a mobile version. That's the strength of Global South. It's not some automated smart city, BMS connected, high-tech quantum computers, interfaces, holograms. It's mobile. That's the next 10 years in the Global South development.
Yeah, thanks, Miller. And so if anyone in the audience have any questions, if you want to raise your hand or you want to just put a question here, please go ahead. We have 10 more minutes as I go around back and ask Scott, who started our conversation, and all the, Bhupinder's, Miller, my input. You are seeing this value, right there. And if you want to add anything or, ask questions, or go ahead.
I think there's something I'd like to share that kind of connects the human side with the physical side. And this, I thought the Bhupinder, the what you shared on the building, smart buildings, intelligence, really cool things happening. And what I'm thinking, this aligns really well, but taking it from the commercial level to the residential level, if you will. So something that we're really interested in is what I call situationally supported adherence. One of the biggest challenges we face globally is getting people to do the right things, right? I don't know the statistics in other countries, but I think it's something like 5% of all healthcare dollars in the US go towards sick care, treating people with maladies, disease, comorbidities that are largely a result of choices that they make. And I'm not sitting here as any example of the primordial vision of health. I'm not being hypocritical, but I think I would be remiss not to share that I think there's a great opportunity to use IoT to change behavior. The way we do it now is reminders and counting on people's willpower. We have the opportunity to do connectivity and changing people's environments in really cool ways. For example, practical, a smart home that looks at someone's spike in blood pressure and changing the environment, the ambiance, through lighting, through background music. Someone who is, their gait might be becoming unsteady, and at night lights automatically illuminate pathways. Just some really simple practical examples, but I think connecting the building / home part of technology directly, and that's what I think is what is so cool about IoT. It connects what's happening with the individual with their environment, and using changes in the environment to help promote changes in behavior in ways that, for better or worse, existing efforts just aren't as effective as we would hope they could be or would be. So I think that's what I said before. SSA is something we're really, really interested in.
Yeah, go ahead, Bhupinder. Yeah.
That's a really great insight, Scott. Because I'm just coming to a point in my life where my mother is quite elderly, and same thing in terms of the house. The house is being adapted around her because she wakes up in the middle of the night and needs to use the bathroom. And in terms of the lighting, we used to have light switches, and now we have those sensors which says, okay, so, she is moving, and we need to turn the lights on, and we need to turn on the doors, etc., etc. So it is one of those things, but it's about the affordability as well. So you talk about affordability and in terms of you need to spend dollars in order to adapt your house and get some of this technology in. So I think maybe one of the things we should do is kind of put our heads together, Scott, and say, how can we actually marry the two sides, kind of the physical environment side, and so the connected devices there and the connected devices which we're wearing, and bring them together in a way which is going to be affordable. But again, it is about prevention. If we can prevent, and this is, I was just reading. I support a football club over here in England, which is a terrible football club. And I'm saying that because it is terrible. But what they have done, they've started looking at the Formula One series, the data that is being used, and it brings same concepts and techniques to bear upon this football club. So this had not won anything. And then he started looking at the gait and the heartbeats and all the fitness levels, and it created these tailored training regimes for those football players. And the interesting thing is they're now using the same technology and same to actually feed through into some of the schools which surround this football club as well. So it's this kind of this filtering, this kind of trickle down effect, which again is very, very. We talk about trickle down theories, but this is really happening. This kind of normalization and just kind of stabilization across all these different sectors. It's the sharing of data. We talk about connected devices. We're not getting people, and I'm saying we need to connect. We need to share data because it is in our best interests. And going forward, I think that is what AI is driving us. It's actually democratizing the use of data and helping us to actually see things that we would never have seen before.
Right.
Yeah, I think, you ended with a nice word, the democratizing the technology, democratizing the data, democratizing the access to this health or the building care. And, because we, as all of us aware, the climate technology changes and adaptation to that, because, if you look at it from European continent point of view, access to geopolitical situation with all these access to energy and a different part of it, and other areas people are evolving how technology. So it is what I look at it is, if 100 years ago industrial revolution, or 30 or 40 years ago information technology revolution and all that, the AI is going to be the big thing. But again, that's talking from NVIDIA, a soapbox saying everything is going to be there. But where frontline people like you guys see that how it can be, help automate, predict, prevention, and then addressing those concerns. And where I love about is, we talked about multiple verticals, multiple markets. That is the biggest thing, because information technology went into a lot of technological revolution as well as part. Here, if you look at it, healthcare, if you look at the industrial, if you look at the financial, if you look at the pharmacy, like drug discovery, so many of these area, these devices. But what each one of these connected devices is, we have 5 sensors in our body. That's how we feel we are smart and looking at all of these things. And these sensors continuously collecting that information with very low power, low energy, and wake up when it needs to be. But providing that information, and then in the connected devices, work on that with whatever needed information, whatever focus area for them, like fall detection or preventive care, or even, for example, when people have some kind of disease, now people are going to come say, this is how I felt, versus here you have, because I am wearing an Oura ring, I am wearing an Apple Watch, I have a continuous glucose monitoring. Everything is is around me, monitoring my each one of the move. So collectively putting everything together, which is the most important part of it. So I think we are coming to to end of our session today. It was quite informative, and thanks, Bhupinder, Scott, and Miller for sharing their stories and sharing information. And do you guys have any last minute thing to plug, or to the audience? Bhupinder, I'll start with you.
I was going to say, I was listening to what Miller was saying, and I think that the drive for AI, and in terms of kind of what's happening in terms of data collection, the Global South really is taking a lead. And I think, again, in terms of the revolution, in terms of if we think about the logical steps that a country takes, or an industry takes, India and South Asia, they just leapfrog straight from an industrial base into a service base. And I think they're going to be leaders, especially if we have people like Miller looking at the future, and you as well, Ruben, looking at it not just from a perspective of the West, but saying, this is how we need to actually help our social circles. So I think, AI, as I said before, democratization of technology, and just moving things forward.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Bhupinder. Thanks, Scott, for participating. If any last-minute wisdom before we close?
I would just like to thank SenzMate for putting this together in your series and your efforts to bring people together. The parallel, I guess, is on IoT and artificial intelligence. We're looking at how data can be connected in ways that create greater value, and the parallel is you all are doing that with individuals. And Bhupinder and I may have some follow-up discussion on something that I think is fascinating, and things like the value from connecting people doesn't happen unless someone makes the effort to do the connection. So I thank you guys for that.
Okay, Miller. Thanks, Scott. Miller, is close it out.
Yeah, I mean, the final words. I mean, we are all in the same tech generation right now, so there's no disconnect for Global South or Western world. So Gen AI make it balanced. So now it's all about whether we're going to continue and thrive as a community, as a planet, completely. And technology getting more and more accessible and affordable. So we have to embrace it for the global good. So that's where we're all focusing on. Hope that will be happen.
And that is, thank you for finishing at that one, because I think all of us want, this is a profession, we do all that, but there is a bigger goal here where we can help with AI by, connecting, as you mentioned, the global South, as well as, population where this is going to be needed, because you don't have enough caregivers, you don't have enough preventive mechanics to go and fix all these things. The prevention always supersedes, and I heard somewhere it gives you 10x more return than if you had to wait until something goes down to fix a problem. It could be a body, you are sick, or the building, or the city, or the farming, and different areas. So thank you everyone for participating today, and thanks for SenzMate business team for putting it together. I appreciate it. So we have recorded this event. We will put a piece of it in the LinkedIn, as well as we'll send an email for registered parties to look at this one. Thank you, everybody.
All right, take care.
Thank you.